Hey, it's time for another bi-monthly manga haul video, which is weird, feels like I did one not that long ago. These last 2 months were interesting because despite my monthly bookstore orders being the smallest they've been in a long time, I still managed to acquire a large amount of manga. In August, I went to Otakuthon in Montreal, which is like Comic-Con, but pretty well specifically about Japanese stuff like anime, manga, JRPGs, figures, etc. And then in September, I went on vacation in the States and visited a few cool comic book shops that had stuff I wasn't able to get in Canada. Couldn't really help myself, and you know what? I have no regrets. So anyway, let's get into it. Before we get started though, I'd like to welcome you to MangAnalysis, where I do little videos about the manga I've been reading. If you like what you see and would like to see more, make sure to subscribe and leave a like. Maybe even leave a comment. Let's get a conversation going. Hey, so we're gonna get started right away. Like usual, I'm gonna start with some new series that I just started, and then from there we'll go to bulk buys, and then we'll go to single volumes. So the first series that I started that I want to talk about is Nierako-chan. So I got the 3 first volumes. So actually, I've been wanting this for a long time and been in my cart, and they're kind of unavailable where I live. For a while, they were out of stock, the 1st and 3rd volume, I believe. And when I went to the States, I was able to buy the first 3 volumes just like that, so it's great. However, I read the first volume and I was not as into it as I thought I'd be. I was a little bit disappointed, and then I had a little bit of a panic moment, if you will, because I had just bought like the 3 first volumes. But as I read on, I actually got a lot more into it, a lot more interested. And by the 3rd volume, I was absolutely hooked to the point where I just wanted to read the 4th one immediately. It's a really fun series. I really recommend it, and I'm really happy to add it to my collection. Okay, so the second series that I started was Pluto. So I was able to get the 4 first volumes. I was at a convention, like I mentioned, Otakuthon, and I was able to get the 4 first volumes. I was absolutely enthralled with Monster, so I decided to give myself a little bit more Hirasawa, and this did not disappoint. I'm actually working on a Hirasawa video. I think this one grabbed me a little faster than Monster, but it's completely different. It's super good. If you haven't read this series, I highly recommend it. It's an absolutely wonderful, wonderful read. Full of mystery, full of intrigue, and absolutely wonderful characters, so good stuff. Finally, the only other series that I started this month is a huge undertaking, and this one is going to be a stuffer for a long time, and that is 20th Century Boys. I have to say, it took me about 3/4 of the book to really be into it. Urasawa likes to start slow, likes to take his time, and I love that. But this one really has a lot of building blocks, and I understand why. However, yeah, it took me a while to get into it. But once I was into it, fully consumed, very excited. The only thing with this is that I'm going to be reading it slowly, so I might wait until I have like 2 volumes at a time so that I don't... There's so much small detail that happens in each book that I don't really want to forget and then have to reread. So I might plan my reading for these ones a little differently than usual. So 20th Century Boys. Okay, so the last series that I started in this period is actually a full series that I bought. It is a 13-volume long series called Nozo Kiana. If you watch Gigix videos, you might remember this series. He did it. It's called The Hentai That Made Me Cry. I had been super curious about it, and maybe it's just my region, but it wasn't really available in English. So when I went to Otakuthon, which is in Montreal, they actually had the entire series in French. So on an impulsive whim, I decided to buy the whole thing. And while it did not make me cry, I can totally understand the emotional investment that this series took on me. It was very, very good. I mean, it suffers from a little bit of that, like, protagonist worshipping that I don't necessarily feel is absolutely warranted. Like, this guy is just a normal guy. He's just a dude. He's much better than Kazuya from Brenda Girlfriend, I'll say that. But he's just the guy, and somehow there's all these women around him, but the story very much focuses on one specific woman. And yeah, while it did not make me cry, I had an emotional investment in it. If you don't mind nudity and sexual content and lots of gratuitous male gaze, you might like this series. So I don't know if it's a full recommendation for me, but it's out there. All right, so now I'm gonna start in bulk buys of series that I had already started. So first we have Inside Mari, Volume 3. volume 4, 5, and 6. So I'm actually pretty excited about this one because it's almost like the 9th final volume is coming out in December or February, something like that. And this is another one of those series that 5th and 6th book, or 3rd and 4th, I don't quite remember, were out of stock for a long time, and I was finally able to pick them up. So I'm really stoked about it. It's a super weird series, very much Shuzo Oshimi. If you know his works like Blood on the Tracks and Welcome Back Alice and Flowers of Evil and Happiness, etc. It's like that, but in a different vibe, I guess. Makes me mighty uncomfortable, and I like it, strangely enough. I'm really excited to finish it. I'm actually super curious. The mystery of this series is quite impeccable. Speaking of uncomfortable, Blood on the Tracks, volume 10 and 11. I don't know where the series is going. I thought it was going towards a relatively predictable-ish climax, and I suppose it's my fault for believing that's what was going to happen. But man, this series just keeps giving me left turns after left turns, and I don't know what to do. I love it, but again, it's crazy and it's weird, and I don't know. Blood on the Tracks. Again, speaking of uncomfortable, our boy comes back, Shuzo Oshimi in Welcome Back Alice. So I had mentioned in my last haul video that this series had a great opportunity to talk about gender and sexual identity and coming of age, and it does that, but it's very heavy-handed and it's leaning very strongly on the gratuitous, grotesque, sexual natures of teenagers. But underneath that, I do believe there is a pretty important story about gender and identity and all that stuff, and I'm really enjoying it. I just wish it could be a little bit more subtle in how it tackled some of those issues, not as in like not put it in the forefront, just not maybe as explicit as it is, I suppose. But yeah, so volume 2 and 3, I'm enjoying it. The series, I'm gonna keep it up. All right, so next, I actually completed this whole series now. Summertime Rendering, volume 2 to 6. It is fully complete. This was an absolutely incredible series. I can't get over how much I enjoyed this series. The first volume was great, and it just kept getting better and better. I thought that it was just going to be like a murder mystery at first, and then it became sort of supernatural, and typically I don't really like that, but this series, man, kept it up perfectly. It made sense. I didn't really feel the need to go back and look at things due to possible plot holes or stuff like that. It was just really well written, and I have to say it had a really good ending. After Apisims, I sort of lost hope, and in a good ending. But this one was absolutely incredible. If you like mystery, thriller, stuff like that, you know, murder mystery, if you will, I really can't recommend this series enough. And while, yeah, each volume is kind of expensive, it is a short series. It doesn't take too much space on your shelves. So, Summertime Rendering, baby. That's where it's at. And here we got 2 Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro. This is one of my favorite series. I absolutely love this series. And I think volume 11, yeah, it was really late. And then this one came on time, so we got 2 pretty close to one another, which is absolutely incredible. Man, I'm so invested in this series. Every volume that comes out is just an absolute joy to read. It makes me laugh. It's one of those books that I can't really read while my partner is sleeping next to me because I laugh too much and wake her up and she gets upset. So that's a great sign. It's funny, and it hasn't stopped. I sort of thought that eventually it might get a little stale, like, oh, Nagatoro picking on me. But the romance, bro, the romance is thick. It's fat with a PH. And I love that. So, Miss Nagatoro, if you haven't checked it out, I made a video about it a while ago, but check it out. All right, next up is Blue Period 8 and 9. So I mentioned in my last manga haul video that Blue Period finally took a turn for me to really get invested again, and it has continued. Our boy continues his path. He's in university now, and he's just an all-around baller, as in he's kind of the same guy in a different setting. It's really good. I'm still really enjoying it. I'm not a huge fan of like half of the protagonist's personality. I really like that he perseveres, but half of it is always him doubting himself, which is an artist will do that, but I'm hoping for sort of change in him, a little bit of character development, because he hasn't had that much. You know what I mean? Like, he's been consistent, he's made a lot of efforts, but that's sort of his thing, right? He tries and has a breakthrough, and it's beautiful, but I kind of want him to maybe accept that, hey, he's not garbage. You know, he got where he is, and at the end of book 9, without spoiling, there's a hint of that shift, and I think it's something that really needs to happen, or this series might get a little stale. However, still very good, very interesting, and it's really fun to see him in university. So, Blue Period, baby. And finally, my last bulk buy, I suppose. Monster. Wow, 5 and 6. So, Volume 5 was actually unavailable, out of stock, and I don't know if this is just everywhere in Canada only or whatever, but for a long time. And when I went to the States, I found it at a bookstore, and I pounced. I bought 5 and 6. And I have to say, man, it's overwhelming how incredible this series is. Again, it has sort of that, a hint of the Monster of the Week kind of formula, done in a way that is so interesting. Whenever you think, like, yeah, there's a Monster of the Week, you know, it's over, they'll come back later. Some characters that you haven't seen in a while will make an appearance. So everything always feels connected. It never feels disjointed. It never feels like it was just as a means to a quick end. Everything that happens feels like it happens for a purpose. If you haven't read Monster, but you've played or watched Steins Gate, I see no reason not to check this out. Steins Gate is one of my favorite animes ever. It's absolutely perfect. And Monster really reminds me of that. Just on a larger scale, I suppose. So, Monster, baby. It's perfect. Okay, single volumes. There's a tad of those, so we're gonna get through them relatively quickly. My Hero Academia Vigilantes, number 13. So this is really cool because I think the series is over now at 15 volumes, so we're almost there. This was a really good volume. It sheds a little bit of light on our protagonist and some of the things that he can do, and he really shines. This series is really, really good. It's consistent, and if you like My Hero Academia, I can't really see why you wouldn't pick this one up. Jujutsu Kaisen 17. This was a spectacular book. I don't want to talk about it too much because, like, super spoilers. However, some stuff happens in this book, and whew, baby, it's violent. And it was needed. It was absolutely necessary. So, great book. Sakamoto Days, Volume 3. Okay, I gotta be real. I might drop this series. I'm not as into it as I wish I was. I said that with the second volume. There's no overarching plot, I suppose, or mystery that I find interesting enough. Like, the little mini stories that happens in the middle are quite fun, but if the only promise for me is that we'll get more of those, and I guess there's a mystery that I don't really particularly care about, it's hard for me to continue investing in this series. So instead of getting rid of it right away, what I might do is I might just cool off on it. I'll let, maybe volume 4 and 5 come out, and then I'll read a bit about it. And if I don't really feel like it's progressing in a way that I want it to, I might just have to drop it. It do be that way sometimes. My Dress Up Darling, number 6. Wow, this is some good stuff, guys. We're past the anime. It's awesome. I'm so excited to keep reading this. The next book is coming out in like February, which sucks. That's in a long time. That's a little disappointing, but sometimes that's just the way she goes. I thought that maybe, like making new costumes all the time would get boring, but with every new cosplay that he makes her, something different happens. They discover something new, and their bond just gets closer, and that's a formula that I don't mind at all. It's still fresh, it's still really funny, it's still really interesting, and you get to know more about cosplaying, which is not technically something that I'm super into. However, it's something that I'm not super knowledgeable on, and I love learning stuff. So, My Dress Up Darling, it's excellent. Kubo Won't Let Me Be Visible, number 3. Okay, so straight up, this is one of my favorite ongoing series right now. I love this series. Again, it's a fun mix of like Komi Can't Communicate and Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro. It is super sweet. It is super cute. I really like the characters. The chemistry between them is fun. And it's a little bit more on your sleeve than Komi will. This is straight up a romantic comedy, but it is still like, it's the same dynamic as Komi, except the genders are reversed, and the girl is a little bit more like Nagatoro. So you can't really go wrong with that, like I have to say, right? Kubo won't let me be invisible. Check it out, Captain. Spy Family, number 8. So the last volume was awesome. I really liked the last volume, and what can I say? This one is just as good. Absolutely love this series. It's hard to really find original things to say about it. This one was interesting because it's an entirely new setting and environment from the last volumes. So, you know, you have that excitement and that new kind of dynamic. So, Spy Family, it's just as good, baby. Mashal, number 8. Okay, excellent volume. So, last time I had mentioned that what I was missing was a villain of some sort that wasn't just a copy-pasta of the last villains, and he was sort of introduced. In this book, he is developed, and boy, it's great. It's interesting because the villain is not super original. You've seen that villain in other series, but you've seen all these characters in other series. It was just something that it was missing. It was missing that sort of villain that's not just whatever we got, you know? Yeah, Mashal number 8, man. I love this series, and it still makes me laugh. Maybe not as much as the first 2 volumes, like those ones were like crack, ha ha ha. But this one they're still funny. It's just you know, a little bit more plot, and I'm a plot guy, so Nozo Kiana. I did it for the plot. Call of the Night, number 9. I feel like we got a lot of number 8s, breaking it up a bit. Yeah, this is this series, man. This is excellent. Lots of positive things to say in this video so far, right? And that can only be a good thing. Yeah, Call of the Night number 9. The last book was great, and this one continues that. It delves into a character's past really well. Some good flashbacks. I'm delighted. Love it. It's Komi time. Komi can't communicate. Number 20, big milestone. I feel like 2022 was a good year for me in Komi, because that's when we were reintroduced after my folly of a few years ago, and I gave up on her, and I love it. Every book is a joy to read. Actually, this book was frustrating because our main character was sort of placed in a situation where he had to mingle with another character that wasn't Komi. And it was just as sweet. It was frustrating, but it was some good stuff. It's so wholesome. Komi, baby. Sensei's Pious Lie, Volume 3. So the next volume is the last one. Yo, this volume was heavy. I mean, this series is brutal. Very difficult, but this last volume was rough. I've accepted it now. It's going in a direction that I didn't necessarily think it should have gone in the beginning, but I'm invested. I love it. But this is one of those series that, you know, if I made another version of series I wouldn't recommend to anyone, this would be it. It's hard. It's difficult to read. Alice in Borderland, Volume 3. I love this series, man. This is super good. Like, I'm a pretty big fan of Battle Royale in general. This one is done super well. I don't even know what else to say. It's just, it has everything you want in a series like this. It has awesome characters. You don't know if they're gonna die or not. There's a lot of intrigue, plot twists, excellent character development from the main cast is quite small, and I like it that way. There are characters that are clearly villains, and I have to say, you don't get to know them super well, but you get to know them enough that you don't necessarily want them to win, but you can sort of at least understand a little bit of where they're coming from. And that's all I need. I don't need a huge backstory. I don't need a reason to want them to get back so that they can save their kid. Some of these villains, you know, they're just trashy people, but you get a little bit of a taste of what they were before, and that's all I need, and I get that here. So Tokyo Revengers, Omnibus Volume 2. Again, why are they in middle school? Why are they shanking each other at the ripe age of 13? Why do they have like this guy with the face tattoo that looks like he's like 7'1"? He's like 14 or 15 or something. He rides a motorcycle. No, I refuse to believe that that is the way it works in Japan. Like, the culture can't be that different. I mean, I'm just some white guy, but like, come on. My headcanon is that this is in high school, so whenever they say middle school, I ignore it. In my head, these characters are like 18. And once I accept that, this is super good, man. This is awesome. I'm not a huge fan of the whole delinquent thing, but I have to say, this is sick. Like a solid 8 out of 10. And that's a lot. Dead Demon Destruction, penultimate volume, volume 11. Next book is the last one. I feel like it's going in an interesting direction. From reading it, you get a strong sense, like the overall scale, that yes, you're entering a climax. But there's all these smaller interpersonal little plots that don't really seem like they're anywhere near being resolved, which is interesting. So I'm curious to see how it's going to happen. Still super good, but this is one of those series that I'm going to have to reread, like binge read. It's really, they come out really far apart from one another, and I have to say it sort of hinders. There's lots that happen. It's very dense. So sometimes just like forgetting who this character is can be pretty detrimental to the entire experience. So if you haven't checked it out yet, you're in a good spot because you can just read like pretty well the whole thing, unencumbered by time. So do it. Brenda Girlfriend, volume 14. All right, so listen, I like the series a lot. I know a lot of people don't. This was the first volume that I've read from this series where I felt very lukewarm about. It's interesting because this is actually one of those volumes that is continuing a pretty big plot point. Like typically the series didn't necessarily have like these big events or whatever. It was all very small little stories. And I think that's when it shined for me. And we've been in this like movie making sort of vibe for 2 or 3 volumes now. I don't love it. And there's this new character, this new girl. She doesn't really do much for me. She's fine. It's just I don't think the series needed more. You know what I mean? Like I just want them to focus on Mitsuhara. I felt a little bummed out. You know, like regardless of the criticism that was coming out about the series, I was still really enjoying it, and I was hit with a wall of meh, and that sucks. But volume 15, God knows there's a lot more coming. So. Crazy Food Truck, number 2, penultimate. There's only like 3 books in this series, allegedly. This one was fun. It was, I think it was better than the first one. There was a lot more characters talking to one another. The food was still really cool. A lot less nudity, which is good because, like, while, you know, I'm not gonna necessarily complain about it, it felt really gratuitous and kind of unnecessary in the first volume. Like, I'm not saying I need it to make sense in the plot. Yeah, no, it kind of needs to be there for there needs to be a reason why this girl is naked, and in the first volume I didn't really see it, and in this volume she's just not really naked, which is cool. I'm glad it's only a 3-book series. I don't think I would be, if I would have known it was like 12 books, but 3 books is a small investment and it's quite fun. All right guys, we're getting there. We're almost done. Volume 27 of Golden Kamui. Okay, listen, I'll keep it short. The series, perfection. It's wonderful. We just got announced recently that it's done with 31 volumes, so 4 volumes left. The series is the best. That's all I'm gonna say. Shibuya Goldfish. 11, final book. This series had a much better ending than they had the right to have. What a silly series. It had a very good ending. It's just crazy to think that a series like this had such a fun ending, while Apasims had the worst ending ever. Now I can fully say, with only 11 volumes, and if you're in for a silly romp, this is good. This is really good. It's worth it. You know what? It's silly. It's not, you know, the height of literature or anything. The art is mediocre. However, it's fun and it has a good payoff. Blue Lock, Volume 2. Listen, I'm not a soccer fan or football fan for whoever's watching in not North America, but this is really good. The art is fantastic. It's crazy that, you know, it's just these kids playing soccer, right? Like, if I wasn't allowed to play badminton anymore, I'd be disappointed, but like my life wouldn't be over. But like, if these kids don't perform, they can never play soccer at like a professional level. And the stakes feel so high. It's awesome. It's really, really good. This is, this is one of my favorites. I think, you know, sports manga, anime, really good. The Way of the House Husband, number 8, another 8th volume. This guy is beautiful. Absolutely perfect book. So fun. So these books now are coming out with a pretty big like distance in between each volume. It doesn't matter. There's no need to, you know, I actually read the 4th book before the 3rd book by accident. It did not disrupt my experience. It was still a wonderful book. And the 8th one is just as funny. It's so good. It's so hard not to recommend this series. Their antics are so funny. That's it. Zom 100, Bucket List of the Dead, Volume 7. This one was actually a really fun volume as well. So, the last arc, if you will, introduced a villain, which I thought was much needed. And in this one, you have this other smaller arc, mind you, but again, it has a pretty convincing villain. And it's absolutely wonderful. It was a really good book. Yeah, the series is fun. This is another series where you don't really need to, you know, go back and flip to really make sure you understand what's going on or you didn't forget anything, because it's so low-key. It doesn't really take itself too seriously, and once in a while, I really enjoy a series like this. Pleasure and Corruption, Book 5. Penultimate volume. The 6th volume is the last one. Apparently, I read that somewhere. It's not a popular series, so finding information on this one is kind of difficult. This is another one of those fun hentai with a plot. Actually, there's not that much nudity. It's all bondage stuff. It started off really strong. It's not as interesting anymore, but 1 volume left. I'll finish it. I'll read it. It's good. Monotone Blue. So this is a one-shot volume. It's a single volume story written by Nagabe, who has written The Girl from the Other Side and a few other one-shot series. So this is boy love, and it's furry, and it's great. No, seriously, it's a really nice little love story between a cat and a lizard, which is, you know, weird, but it's great. Really good little book. If you don't mind that boy love stuff, fully recommended. The art is absolutely wonderful. I think at this point, I'll buy all his books. Like, I don't care. I just really like his art. So, their art. I don't know. Nagabe. Finally, we have Look Back. So this is a single one-shot from Tatsuki Fujimoto, the mad lad who gave us Chainsaw Man. Don't know what I was expecting, but it wasn't this, because this was wholesome and beautiful and wonderful, and I loved it. It's a quick read. It's about 2 kids that like making manga, and it's beautiful. It's a really good book. I've actually read it twice already, and I got it like 2 weeks ago. It's just really evocative, and it brought me back to my youth. So, can't go wrong with that. Alright, so I'm going to finish with something a little different. I don't have a huge collection of art books, but I have a few. If you want to see those, put a comment down below. So the first one is a Daisuke Richards illustration book. I love his stuff. He has these really intricate... Okay, well, of course, when I say intricate inside, all I see are the girl scenes, but these really beautiful, intricate interior design with all this clutter and the girls, and it's really good. Daisuke Richards, you can find him on social media. I'll leave a @ below. Yeah, that feels appropriate. And I got this one at Otakuthon in Montreal, and I had been wanting this one particularly for a long time, and it's the Haikyuu Complete Illustration Book. If you've seen some of my other videos, you know that Haikyuu means a lot to me. It's one of my favorite series ever, and to have the guy's art book is awesome. I really like the art. It spans the entire thing, so this was done after the series had concluded, so you get like the celebratory illustrations that he did to celebrate, you know, the completion of the series, which is awesome. So this was really expensive. I got it at Otakuthon. Probably paid like more than I probably would have gotten on Amazon, but I was there, it was in a booth, I bought it, no regrets. Alright, so that was it. That was a lot. That felt like a lot. I'm gonna edit this video and cut some stuff out, but I'm at like almost 40 minutes. I think that's the longest one so far. It's gonna take hours to upload. But let's go to the little bit of the conclusion. So let's do it.
Well, that was my August-September manga haul. Now, what about you? Did you get anything exciting in the last 2 months? Start any new cool series? Please let me know in the comments down below, for I'd love to know. I hope you enjoyed this little video, and if you did indeed enjoy it, consider subscribing. This was MangAnalysis, and I'll see you in the next one.